Hello, little lavenders.
But I can't find the word.
What?
Is this working? I don't know.
Hello, little lavenders. Welcome to today's YouTube video. So today I'm doing something a little different. I will be doing book reviews of books that have helped me along my spiritual and healing journey, and do a little summary of some of the things that really stuck out to me and things that I think will be useful for you. Also, your girl has an Amazon storefront. So if you want to support, I really appreciate it. I'll put the link down in the description, and you can find all of these books on my storefront. I feel so bad for self-promoting. You really don't have to buy it from there. It would help a girl out. The first book that we're gonna talk about is The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. The first really key takeaway that I got from this book was that trauma changes your perception. So in the book, he goes on to describe how when we perceive a threat, whether it's real or unwarranted, our alarm system gets triggered. This alarm system is known as the amygdala. When the amygdala is triggered, it sends stress hormones to our bodies, which in turn activates our primal instincts, mainly fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. While all of this is going on, the frontal lobes are sort of looking over everything from the top. Now what usually happens is the frontal lobes can tell the amygdala to chill out, stop sending the stress hormones when it acknowledges and recognizes that it's not a real threat. However, in people with PTSD, the amygdala and the frontal lobe are so off kilter that it makes it difficult to perceive what is an actual threat versus what is a perceived threat. The body can't tell the difference between the two, which leaves the person in a perpetual state of fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. As the book goes on to discuss, this can have ravaging effects on the body, leading to physical symptoms such as chronic fatigue, and really the list goes on. The second key takeaway for me was the section that dealt with the minds of children. In this section, he goes on to explain that self-regulation is taught at a young age by our caregivers. We learn how to self-soothe through imitation, essentially. However, early trauma changes the way that the brain is wired, making it difficult for conventional and typical self-soothing techniques to work. On page 108, there's a very profound quote where he says, "For abused children, the whole world is full of triggers." We often associate these with characteristics that may manifest as inattentiveness or hyperactivity or rebellion, but these are all looking at the symptom rather than the cause, which is what the book at its core is really trying to do, to help us get to the core of our problem so that we can truly heal. Okay, the second book that we're going to talk about is Stop People Pleasing by Patrick King. The first key takeaway for me from this book was that you can care about other people's mental health without prioritizing it over your own. This is important for many reasons. It prevents burnout, and also it allows you to show up for the people in your life more fully, because in essence, you can't pour from an empty cup. You have to take care of yourself first so that you can better show up for the people in your life. The second thing that really hit home for me was this idea that your worth is not tied to appeasing and pleasing other people's wishes and doing as they say. As a reformed people pleaser, I used to really struggle with this because I thought that in order for people to like me, I have to do whatever they want me to do, because I didn't believe that I was intrinsically worth something by itself without me having to do anything. I am worthy and deserving of love. And this is something that I had to teach myself, and that's why this really stuck out to me. This idea that no, your worth is not dependent on what you do for other people. The third book that we're going to be delving into is Atlas of the Heart by Brené Brown. The first key takeaway for me from this book was that even if we can't help making comparisons, we do have the power to not allow it to affect our mood and self-perception. Whether we're comparing ourselves to the size of ourself compared to a model we see on a magazine, or if you're at the pool casually swimming and someone comes along and is, an Olympic swimmer, we may feel a tinge of insecurity. And that's where we have to draw the line, because we can make comparisons work in our favor. I think our internal comparisons are a watchtower, a guide to navigate our insecurities. And once we uncover those insecurities, we can stop letting comparisons have control over our lives. The second key takeaway for me from this book was that expecting the worst means that you are not being fully present. Expect the worst, hope for the best. But how can you truly hope for something if you are riddled with this idea that it may not work out? How can you truly, fully apply yourself if you have these thoughts that, it's not really gonna work out anyway? You can. Those two things do not go hand in hand. Expect the best, because you have to believe. You have to chase after what you want and your dream. But you can only do that if you are living in the present to the fullest extent and applying yourself fully. The fourth book we're gonna look at is Self-Therapy by Jay Early. So this book is quite interesting because it actually explains a therapeutic model called internal family systems, also known as IFS. The idea behind IFS is that we as people are made up of different parts. The goal of this therapeutic model is to merge the different parts to create a sense of wellness and wholeness. In this book, he outlines that there's 3 main different types of parts. Firstly, the exiles. Secondly, the managers. Thirdly, the firefighters. So our exiles carry the emotional pain, the trauma. The managers are the one that keeps us going. They're the ones that when you feel like you're on autopilot, that's your manager, if you follow the IFS model, kicking in and taking over so that you can operate and go through your day to day. The firefighters, as you may guess by their name, extinguish fires, metaphorically. Firefighters become activated when exiles are triggered, and they often react by using self-destructive behaviors. And the book stresses that these parts are not inherently bad. They've learned maladaptive techniques throughout the years that have kept you going. And what needs to happen is that we teach these parts a better way of processing and dealing with things. A thought that I'll leave you with from this book is this idea that he talks about: you can't get rid of a part of your psyche. You can only push it further into your subconscious, where it will continue to affect you, but without you knowing. The fifth and final book that we're going to be discussing today is The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck. The first quote that really stuck out to me in this book was that our view of reality is like a map with which to navigate the terrains of life. Now, while there are many external factors that may change our perception, we cannot take away the power that we have within ourselves to change our own perception. And it doesn't need to be these big dramatic gestures or changes. It can start off with little things, like when you're taking a walk down the street. Did you notice the way the breeze felt against your skin? Did you take note of flowers and any other trees or shrubbery around you, and just in awe and gratitude of the beautiful nature that we are living in? Changing our perception can be as simple as that. And these little habits will lead to big changes. The second quote that really stuck out to me was, "We can lead only insofar as we've gone." I think this one is really important because we must be wary of spiritual people on the internet that pretend like they're fully healed, because in my personal opinion, you're never going to be fully healed. And I'm sorry if that discourages you, but there's always going to be something that you're going to need to work through. Like Miley Cyrus said, "There's always gonna be another mountain. I'm always gonna wanna make it move." Anyway, yes, There's always going to be another mountain, and you are going to have to figure out how to make it move. But it is our perception of these challenges that truly affect our life. We have to, in some ways, welcome adversity, obviously to an extent, but healthy adversity is good for us. Healthy pushing of our own personal boundaries and getting out of our comfort zones is good for us. And then as we grow, we can help others grow. It's also, if you think about it, like when you're on the plane and they tell you to put your mask on before you put someone else's on, it's a lot like that. We can only teach what we know, and so we have to continue to grow if we're going to lead others along the path with us. The third really important thing that I took away from this book was another quote: "One must find oneself before one can lose it." I think that this is so profound and beautiful, because truly in this age of spirituality, we hear a lot of dropping and dissolving the ego. But you have to step back and ask yourself, what part of my spiritual journey am I on? How can you lose something that was never found? It simply doesn't make sense. So that's the end of this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Let me know if I should do another book review, because there are more books on the Amazon storefront that really did help my healing journey. I hope to see you again in the next video, but until then, stay safe, stay blessed, and love purple. You should subscribe.